Hello Internet, today I wanted to try something a little bit different with our snow shader. I want to play with wind. Not wind as in like blowing things over, but wind as in I want the snow to actually drift over time. So let's say there's wind coming from up here in the top right of my screen. If it's coming this way, I don't know how the camera looks like that, but if it comes this way, I want it to just push all the snow with it. This might be less useful for snow, because snow tends to kind of just lay flat. But if you're thinking of like sand, for example, where it kind of creates dunes and those kind of move over time, this might be interesting. I just kind of want to see what it looks like, so that's why we're doing this. I don't really have any idea where this is going. But the general idea is I want to be able to take, assuming where the snow or where the wind is coming from is greater than or is higher than where the snow came from or is going to, I want to take some from there and put some back in the new place. I don't really know how well that's going to work, but I think we should try it. So, I have both our snow physics simulator and our snow physics compute shader open. We need a float, which is going to be our wind speed. Now in this video, we're just going to do it in one direction. I'm just going to have it be a fixed direction just so we can see what happens. I have some ideas on how we can make it cooler than that, but I'm not really going to play with those unless this actually looks worthwhile. So, we have our wind speed, I guess we'll call it. We've been capitalizing things, so I'll just do that here. There's wind speed. Let's add that to this whole thing. Now, in the previous video, I said we should kind of add this, I think it was the recovery time, into our fixed update. I don't think that's a good idea. Instead, we're actually going to, there's a void on validate. Yeah. And so this is going to get called every single time we update our function. So if I put this here, it's only going to get called every time we validate the function or we change anything in the inspector, in the editor's inspector. It's not going to get called in our game. So we need to add it up here too, which we can do right there should be fine. So there's the recovery time. And there we go. So that'll just fix that. That was annoying me. So, we're writing wind speed. Let's do that right next to our recovery time. Public float. Wind speed. And we're gonna, the reason I just did that is we are going to actually do the exact same thing here. So we have wind speed. Like so. It's occurring to me, I may want to refactor out these and put them somewhere else because we're just going to have this block down here that's doing the same thing as this onValidate. That's kind of a waste. We can make that better. So that may be something we can improve later. For now, I'm not going to worry about it. We can get stuck in a refactoring loop, and I don't really want to deal with that right now. So we have wind speed in this compute shader. That should be the only thing we really need to do there. Now, what I need to check is I need to know at a point it's going to have something to, let's just say right and left, because that's easier. We'll just work in one dimension for now. So we have this line with wind going around across it. We'll say from the right to the left. So anything at the right will get blown to the left. And the camera's reversed, so that is totally opposite. But the way that's going to work is that pixel, if we take one in the center, needs to know the pixel to its right and the pixel to its left. Because it's going to be receiving additional snow, or whatever, from the pixel to its right, and losing some of its own to the pixel to its left. So if the pixel to the right is lower than it, it gets no new snow. if it's to the left, it might lose some. If the left is lower, it's going to lose some. And so that's sort of what we need to, that's what we need to figure out how to do here. So this is how our entire thing is working. We flash the inputs, just makes everything black. And then here, we have our previous state. We're just sampling where we are. And then we are modifying our depth, which means our input, sorry, not doing that. We're taking the camera depth, grabbing the camera depth, and then adjusting between the two. So if the camera depth is deeper, we increase this. Everything's a little bit weird because we're actually using inverted stuff. So 0 is actually the ground, and 1 means full of snow. Actually, hold on. Invert that again. Backwards. 0 means totally at the top. 1 means completely trampled. I forgot we had flipped those. So, I'm going to make a comment of that. Because I am going to forget that. 1 equals top of snow. Is that what I said? No. 1 equals trampled. 0 equals top of snow. And that's just because that's how the depth textures just normally appear. They'll be 0 if they're not hitting anything, and 1 if something's in the way. So, that makes sense. Cool. Now, we need to make that relevant. So I'm grabbing 3 things. The previous state, the depth, and then something else. For this, we're not going to worry about the current depth. I don't really care about this. So, since we're saying right to left, let's say we need to sample something from over here. So we have our id.x. Let's just add 1. And so +1 will just be our right. I'll call it that. Our right state. And then we need one for -1. Notice there's a parentheses here. So this way, we're actually moving by specific pixels in the texture. So it'll be taken directly from the pixel next to it. We probably don't actually necessarily need to do that. We can actually have some like blurring if we want. But for now, this will help us kind of at least test that this is working. Because like I said, I have no idea what's going to turn out from this. So we'll see. Left state. And those are just for my own reference. And let's just say wind moves from right to left. And let's just write down our rules here. So if right state greater than current state, then gains snow. If left state is greater or is less than the current state, then lose snow. Those are the 2 rules we need to figure out how to do. So, I think the best way to do this is to have some sort of sum, because we're going to be taking both of those and adding it onto the result from this guy down here that's calculating our new state. And so, my plan is to actually take this and just calculate it there, and then add it to the sum and hope it all works. Yeah, we'll find out. So, quote, this will be our snow gained sum. Sure, we'll call it that. That makes sense. And we'll just set that to 0. And so this needs to be a function from both of those. So I need to compare both of them to the previous state. And the easiest way is going to be making this up on the spot, so sorry if this makes a little bit less sense than I'd want it to. But so if we want to say if the right state is greater than the left or than the current state, we can do right state minus current state or previous state. And I want to take the max of that. So those two, and we're taking the max between that result and 0. Which means if we get 0 here, then the previous state was greater. Because then we ended up below 0. And then our max just brings it back up. So that will solve for that. And I think we should be able to use a min for the other one. I'm going to put a semicolon there because I'm forgetting. This is mostly just pseudocode at this point. I'm making it up as I go. So the min, that's not going to be right. We're going to want another max. But we're going to do previous state minus the left state. So this is taking our current state and subtracting the left state. And the result of that is going to be less than 0 if the left state is greater. So we'll get no change if the left is anything greater than it, and no change if the right is anything greater than it. And so this will get us the difference or 0, depending on if we should do something or not. So this will be our float added snow and float removed snow. Now this isn't right, because this is going to move everything. And I don't want that. That won't do what I want it to do. And another thing that we need to keep in mind is this has to be, it has to reflect one another. So you can't have like a exponential curve, because if we do, what's going to happen is we're going to have pixel 1 and pixel 2 right next to one another. And pixel 1 is going to say, I want to take 50% of pixel 2's, and pixel 2 is going to say, I want to take 30% or give 30% to pixel whatever, pixel 1. That, it needs to add up. If it doesn't, it might not look right. It might just, I don't know, create something different. But for now, we have this cool snow gained sum. We're going to set that equal to our added snow and subtract our removed snow. This is backwards because, again, 0 is the top, 1 is the bottom. So our added snow is actually going to be removed, and our removed snow is actually going to be added. Cool. And then let's just clamp this between 0 and 1. Do I want to do that? Hold on. Not yet. Let's not do that yet. There's possibilities for us to go into negative numbers, and I don't want to do that. If we go into negatives, bad things could happen because we'll get into this loop of just negativeness. Theoretically, it should even itself out. We'll eventually gain back that, but it doesn't make sense for this to ever go negative. So we're going to have to add that check down here. So instead of this max, I think we're going to clamp it. Is that what I want to do? Maybe. No. Never mind. We're going to leave that. I'm just going to pretend like that's fine. Instead, we're just going to add this on to our function and see what happens. Because I don't know. And this is the easiest way to find out. So what I did is I added our new snow gain sum onto this whole function, which means it's going to get added just like everything else. If this works the way I think it's going to work, it should move along the U axis. So our X, whatever X is, in our texture. Probably going to cause something weird, because it should move pretty fast. And it's going to be frame rate dependent, because that's just the way we did it. So, let's see if I can start this. I don't know if my texture compiled or not. Nope. Alright, our shader is not compiling. Undeclared identifier previous state. It's right there. Oh, well, that's why. Let's move this up here with everything else, just so it actually works. And try that again. Probably gonna help. And now, I don't think we have any errors anymore. We have some annoying warnings, but ooh. Ooh. Hold on. What did I do? Something awful. Did I? Ooh. Very negative. Okay. No, I was saying we don't want things to go negative. We don't want things to go negative. Part of the thing is we're using this result as a displacement map. We're actually moving things. So if I'm guessing what happened, I made these super negative, and because I did that, they went negative, and then everything exploded because it just kept going negative. And the result of that is just displaced into the ground. Oops. That's not what we want. So let's figure out how to fix that. What did I do wrong? Right state minus previous state minus left state, move snow, added snow. What's the worst that can happen? Let's reverse them, see what happens. Easiest way to figure this out is just try things until you get something. I don't know, I like playing with them. Ooh, that's cool. That's what I was going for. So it's a little bit fast, but you can kind of see what's happening. It's all cascading. It kind of looks like an ocean. It's happening super fast just because that it just is. And it's not super smooth, but the reason it's not super smooth, or the reason I'm going to say it's not super smooth, is because that's interesting. It looks like we're missing pixels, like we're oh, how would I know what's happening? So we're taking something from the left and comparing it and saying, this can move, and then it moves. The problem with that is the one to the right of it. So effectively we're creating a cascading effect. So if I have like 3 things, the left one moves, that means the middle one can move, but the right one doesn't think it can move yet. So if the middle one moves, there's going to be a gap. And the same thing happens down the chain. That's what seems to be happening here. So as our first pixel moves, the one behind it doesn't know that it can move yet, so it's 1 frame behind. So we get this kind of grainy effect, like that. We could probably fix that just through all sorts of just making it less do that. But also, it will get better just because we're going to be not doing it like this. Right now, we're moving the entire thing. So I'm shifting literally an entire value in this case over. We don't necessarily want to do that. We want to do this over time, gradually. So that's going to be part of the reason we see this. But it looks really cool. Like, look at that. That looks sweet. That's coming. Let's see. Let's open the scene and just keep it there, because then I can step through this. And you can kind of see it, like, ripples towards you. And then the ball comes through and redoes it all. But that's super cool. I like that. That's the effect I was going for. And then it just starts, you can see the edge just starts eroding in. That's perfect. Okay, cool. I'm liking this. That's so cool. Okay. Yep. Cool. We're gonna have to figure out how to make this cooler. So we've got that. That's doing what I want. Now I'm going to add in one more thing. That's going to multiply this by our wind speed. And so this way, we can give it a wind speed of like 0.01. Probably not the way I want to do it, but if I give it 0.01, it will go slower. And so then we won't be taking the entire thing with us, we'll only be taking a fraction of it, which should mean smoother waves. I'm hoping. We'll see if that actually works, but that's sort of the goal here. I'm hoping that it just works that way, where I can just say, move slower, and it moves slower. We may run into some issues because we aren't blurring or anything, which would probably help this effect a lot. But it looks alright already. So we need a snow simulation. We need to set the wind speed to like let's do 0.5. Actually, since we did it this way, I'm going to go into here and set this as a range. From 0 to 1. And so the cool thing, if you do this, Unity will replace the normal text field with just a slider. So if I refresh this, Unity's inspector will just get smart and be like, ah, I see you want a slider. Let me make that for you. And there we go. So now we have a slider, which means we can't really go outside of our area. It will do the validation for us. And so we're seeing two effects here. We're seeing it slowly recover over time and actually grow higher. We're also seeing it get moved by the wind, I think. Wind is harder to tell. So let me disable the ball. Is that what I want to do? I don't think so. So the ball just went through. Now it's going to be disabled. And I'm going to turn off this recovery time. So that isn't going to happen anymore. We should see it kind of collapse this way, but it might be slow. Pretty slow. It's quite slow. Does work, but the effect is cooler the higher you bring that number. And that's just because the closer it gets to 1, the more... Effectively, the wind speed is not a speed of the wind. It's not how far or how fast each particle is moving. It's actually saying you are going to move this amount of the difference every frame. And that actually isn't what I want. That's probably part of the problem. Just saying that that isn't what I want at all. So let's multiply this by our elapsed time. That's probably better. And let's actually change this a bit. What if we sample from a different place? I can always go back. I've got a video of this, so I always go back and figure out which one I like the best. But we're just kind of exploring here to figure out which one works. So let's change how we're sampling these textures. So instead of doing this, we're going to add on our wind speed and subtract our wind speed. And so what this is going to do is actually change how far we sample. So if I give it 1, we actually aren't going to see any effect. And actually if I give it like 0.6, it will actually turn around. Okay. So what we're doing is effectively changing where we're sampling the texture from. So in this case, I have like a 512 by 512 texture. So if I give it 1/512, that would be the same as what we were doing previously. But now I can increase that, so I can actually move particles a further distance instead of just 1 pixel at a time. Which means we also want a wind power, or wind force, that might be better. And wind force is going to do what wind speed was doing previously. So wind force goes there. And because I added elapsed time, I'm actually going to allow this to be bigger than 0, or than 1. And we're going to, just to make sure I don't do anything silly, going to take the minimum value between this and 1, which is going to hopefully prevent us from going and just taking way more than we want, because this actually would enable us to grab too much. So that's hopefully what we're preventing here. instead of that, actually, let's do this and previous state. Yeah. And this will prevent us from grabbing more than our current state. I'm making this more complicated than I want. Let's leave that out. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and we can come back and figure it out. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. I think if it goes wrong, it'll be obvious. You saw what happens when it goes wrong. We get spikes into nothingness. And we can get those in the other direction too. So this will be a way to test that. But now I need to add a wind force over here. So let's just do that. Wind force. Wind force. Copy, paste. We are getting dangerously close to the point where I'm like, yeah, we should probably fix that. But I'll probably do that off camera just because you guys don't need to see me just extracting the function. I'm pretty sure you know how to do that if you're watching this video this far. So I'll leave that to something else. So this, hopefully, is going to give us the ability to actually sample in different places. I move this way back here and give the wind force like 0 or like 2. I don't know what that's going to do. We're going to play with these numbers because I want to get an effect that looks cool. So if I really increase this, ooh, going backwards. That wasn't what I wanted. And spikes into nothingness. Worried about that. So that's why I wanted to add the min. I know that's there now, but I'm just gonna try to make sure this is doing what I want without breaking it, and then hopefully we'll prove that I am getting what I want. So the cool thing is, at slow wind speeds, it doesn't really look like it's doing that much, but it is actually just smoothing out like a ramp here. And that's kind of what the goal was. It will, over time, if I left this for a very long time, like if I turn this off, this will eventually level out, but it shouldn't ever get totally back. What will end up happening is it will just smooth out over the entire thing. Well, actually, no, because it's... What about this? So it'll just create a band, effectively, down this entire thing, but it shouldn't ever reach back to the normal level. So we'll just have like a trough in this particular space. But it does smooth out just over a very long distance. So that tiny little thing is now, I think, all the way back here. Yep. So it goes far further. Just takes a bit of time. Also, that's going the wrong way. I should have been looking at other things, because this doesn't look right. Huh. I wonder what caused all of this. Probably something I did. So, it looks like, well, that actually is intentional. But I don't know what this is. This is wrong. I'm pretty sure. I didn't expect to see that. Interesting. Okay. So we're getting to the point where I need to actually do something different. Like if I increase this, ooh. Oh, that's cool. we have a ghost in the snow. Oh, that's cool. Okay. I'm just freaking out over all of this this stuff. We're sampling too heavily. So what's happening is I don't regrow the snow. So I just made a giant dent, and I didn't give it a way to come back. But that'll fix that. So now it rises back up. And so I can actually... That is the coolest thing ever. So we can get people doing snow angels as ghosts in the snow. You could do this anyway. You could just disable this from your normal camera. But this looks cool because it's like... Anyway. that kind of demonstrates the sampling that I was talking about. It doesn't look like our texture is set to wrap, which is why we're not getting anything over here. But, okay. Oh yeah, it is. It has to be because we're getting some stuff there. So texture does wrap, it just wasn't there. So if you have a high wind speed, like I do, it's going to move that far per frame. I think that's part of the problem, and I can fix this. So we have wind speed here. Let's get rid of that. Let's make that a wind speed times our elapsed time. And so by doing this, we should actually make it a little bit more consistent. It looked like we were getting a fairly consistent frame rate though, but I don't think that we should count on that. And so this way, hopefully the effect is consistent across different things. We need to actually restart because our shaders break when we do that. There we go. We've got the ball doing its thing. And now if I increase the wind speed way up, it still moves, just not as far. And you can actually see it's actually like spreading out that way and then kind of smoothing out. Because we're not doing any like blurring or anything, there's not any horizontal movement. It's not really physics because you can see like we have hard walls when we have something that would transition along the y-axis in our shader. And that's just something that we kind of have to work with this solution. So this, it gives you sort of that movement. You can probably create some cool dunes with that. Like, we get some really cool shapes out of this. Especially if you just turn that off, turn recovery off, make some shapes in it, and then just let it run for a bit. Probably turn wrapping on too, because that would help. But it, I don't know. It's cool. I'm happy with this. It wasn't exactly what I anticipated, but it was almost cooler. So I think I'll leave this here. I have some ideas on how we can make this a little bit more dynamic and a little bit cooler over time. And I think we'll probably play with that in another video. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you guys have suggestions for me, leave them in the comments below. I always read those and try to respond to them as best as I can. If you want to talk development or just share some of your projects, we have a Discord channel. There's a link to that in the description. And you can come join that and talk, or not, just hang out and read stuff. Best pitch ever. So, there you go. Those are those things. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. So, till then, see you, Internet.